5.
Oh, it's on.
445, and the meeting.
This is the meeting ID number.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No problem.
I'll do a Kiddush on this one, yeah.
Hold on.
What time is the shiur starting?
Now, officially.
Oh,
Why?
it's a good job. I just came on a minute ago. I thought it was 15:15.
So
And
did
I
I.
saw
The sofa went on over time, so...
At least I know I haven't missed anything.
Probably is. I don't know if anybody else knows that it's starting now.
Hold on. I will tell them. Give me 1 second. I'll tell them.
Well, okay. Oh, Harvey, did you realize what was happening? What's that background noise, Shia?
No, it's not mine.
It's not yours, sir. Daf Yomi Shabbos Daf Lametes Amud Beis.
It's on yesterday's meeting ID.
Right, we're starting straight away because as it is, we're running quite late. I'm sorry for the thing. The other show went over time, and I would like to do as much as we can. We're starting Daf Lametes Amud. We're doing Lametes on base, but we're starting from the bottom of Lametes Amud Aleph. Omar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, top of Lametes on base. B'maisa also anshe teveo v'osilu abonon, from the fact that Chachamim forbade it. Botla hatzmona b'davar moisav hevel. It's a riot that davar moisav hevel, you're not allowed to do hatzmona. Because they transferred the pipe of the cold water through the hot water before Shabbos. Omar ula aloch kanshe teveo, that you're allowed to do it. They broke the pipe work. So they obviously held it's osa. They were chayzer to hold like the Chachamim. How can you possibly say that it's mutter? On the contrary, they themselves stopped it. And since they themselves stopped it, it is osa. Which kind of rechitza does the Mishnah refer to? There are there's 3 kinds of rechitza. There's washing your entire body. There's washing just your hands and your face. And there's having a shower. In those days, washing usually meant going into a bath. As we will see, some of them is always mutter, some is always forbidden. And the more tries to work out which one was it that they said that if it's Shabbos, it is Asa. If it's Yom Tov, then it is Asa as if it's done on Yom Tov. So more select this. We're talking about washing the entire body. Only Shabbos because it was heated for Shabbos is Asa. They had been heated from Fridays. The halach is, even if you've got hot water which was prepared from before Shabbos, you're not allowed to have a shower on Shabbos and all your body, not allowed to wash yourself your whole body. We'll see the Gemara later explains all of this. The reason is because people used to open the bathhouses, and in order to explain away that it was open, they would say, it came from before Shabbos, or things like that. Ema Sefer. It must be that we're talking about only washing the hands and the feet. Something's wrong with my computer. One second. What's this? Let me just see. Oh, that's a bit better. Sorry. Elo must be talking about Panivot of Aglo. In the Sefer, Beyond Kecham Shochum Beyond, as if he hated Beyond, Basum Bechitz Muton Shtia. You're only allowed to drink it, you're not allowed to wash yourself. Lematan stomach of Shama. The time Shama Imim Lo Yachim Odom Chamim No Aglo, but Kibuim Shtia. We still Matirin. The Bachliks Bishama Bishilel, are you allowed to heat up water on Yom Tov in order to wash your hands and feet? According to Beis Hillel, it is mutter. According to Bishama, it is also. This is a very, very famous Bachlikus. What is the basis of the Bachlikus? Anybody know? Whether you're allowed to wash yourself with hot water, you cook. Are you allowed to heat up water on Yom Tov for washing yourself? Bishama say Oicha Nefesh means literally Oicha Nefesh. Oicha Nefesh means only Oicha Nefesh, only for cooking and for eating and things like that. Beis Hillel say anything which is a tzorech. So according to Beis Hillel, you're even allowed to heat up hot water in order to have a shower, in order to wash yourself. So how can the Mishnah say not allowed to wash yourself if it's Panav Yodav Raglav Shmi Mutter? We're talking about just rinsing off your body. But we're up to the first wide line on Lamates Omud Base. We're going a bit faster. We're not going faster. We started very late because of the other show went over time. But the Gemara now is discussing which kind of bath is permitted on Yom Tov, but forbidden on Shabbos. The Tanu, Leishtatif Odom Kol Gufoi, Bein Mecham Bein Besin Divrei Amir. A male holds not allowed to wash yourself, not with hot, not with cold. Rabbi Shimon Mati permits both. So it comes out, we pass in like Rabbi Shimon according to this version, that Rabbi Shimon holds that you're not allowed to go into a bath on Yom Tov, but you are allowed to rinse yourself off both with hot water and with cold water. When you go into a bath which is set in the ground, everybody agrees it's mutter. Why? Because we're not chayshish that people will think you heated it up on Yom Tov. From a cup, from a vessel, it's much worse because then everybody says to themselves, why is he doing it? He must have heated it up with a bath. He must have heated it up with a fire, and therefore it is awesome. Says the Gemara, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda that says with hot water it is asa, and with cold water it is mutter. Did you hear this explicitly? Or did you learn this out from a klal? Meaning, did you work it out from a general rule? So the Gemara says, my klal, which klal? Whenever you find a machlokas, and one of them is machriya, and you've got one person being very machri one way, one person being very meiko the other way, and there's somebody in between. Halacha ketiv machriya, the halacha is like the machriya. So therefore, over here as well, the halacha should be like the machriya. Chutz, there's one exception to this. Mikuli matlonios. If you remember, we had these cloths which a person uses for very shmata things, but we had 3 shittas of Lezer, Bishab, and Akiva in between. And then the halacha is not like Rabbi Akiva. Why? She'af Bishab, Lezer, Machbi, Bishab, Meiko, Rabbi Akiva, Machria, ein halacha k'tiv Machria. Choda, one reason Rabbi Akiva Talmud is a Talmud, and therefore we don't take the consideration of a Talmud between these two rabbis. Void, a Hoda by Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Yeshua, top of Mem Amud Aleph. Rabbi Akiva was chayzer to Rabbi Yeshua. Since Rabbi Akiva was chayzer to Rabbi Yeshua, therefore we don't go like Rabbi Akiva. Again, the Gemara says like this: we have 3 opinions regarding rinsing yourself with hot water. Shittas from me is it's always asa. Shittas of Yehuda is always mutter. Shittas of Shimon is that it is always that depends. Hot water. Shittas of Shimon is always mutter. Shittas of Yehuda is hot water is asa, cold water is mutter. We'll talk about halacha l'maisa in a minute. So the Gemara says that when we paskin like a Yehuda, is it because of the general rule that you always paskin like the machriya, or is it because that we had an explicit rule? It says, well, if it's from a general rule, what's the din? I learned it explicitly that the halacha is with hot water, it is also with cold water, it is mutter. We'll see, we'll come to the halacha l'maisa in a minute. The Gemara says like this. Itma, chamin shuchmu me'erev Shabbos. Hot water that was heated on Friday. Rav Amar Lamocha Richet Ben Kol Gufay Eva Eva. V'Shmuel Amar Leitir Lichutz Upon Aviot Rav Rav. You're allowed to wash your hands, feet, and face. This is very important. I have the old-fashioned boiler. I don't know if you know there are 2 kinds of boilers. There's the combi boiler and there's the tank boiler. Those who have a combi boiler should be aware that you're not allowed to turn on the hot water, not on Shabbos, not on Yom Tov. The reason is the way a combi boiler works is that the moment you turn on the hot water, the fire goes higher, and when you turn it down, the fire goes smaller. Now, turning it on Yom Shabbos would be it's a bio havor mamish. On Yom Tov won't be such a big problem, except for the fact that when you close the tap, it would be awesome. In fact, there's a very strong reason to say that if somebody by mistake opens that water on the combi boiler, if it's not dangerous, one should leave it open the entire Shabbos and Yom Tov, because shutting a hot water of a combi boiler actually changes the flame in the boiler. So if you have a combi boiler, unless
a combi, it actually ignites it. On a combi boiler, it actually ignites the boiler. It turns it on specifically.
It's even worse. Very good. Thank you for telling me that. I thought it was just increasing the flame. But
No,
okay.
that's if it's already on. But if it's not,
right. If it's
yeah,
not,
it
it's
makes
actually
it
ignited. So combi boiler, unless your boiler is off, you cannot use it. What you can do is turn off your boiler and then you can use your hot water. But if you have combi boiler, generally you can't use hot water, not on Shabbos or on Yom Tov at all. If you have the old-fashioned boiler, which is basically a tank, which it has certain times it goes on and heats up the tank. On Shabbos, it's still a very big problem because on Shabbos, when you turn on the hot water comes out of the tank, cold water comes into the tank, and that's a very big problem. What you can do though is on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, you've got more cooler because you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov hot water. Only there are two problems. One problem is one is not allowed to have a bath on Yom Tov, as we will come to see, a complete bath, except for Chayla. I remember that in Eretz Yisrael, it's very, very rare to have a 3-day Yom Tov. Very, very rare. We have it quite a lot in England. The only way you have a 3 days in Eretz Yisrael is when Rosh Hashanah is Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. Now, what happens is in Eretz Yisrael, it can be quite hot. And babies, when they haven't been rinsed off, after a few days, they can catch a rash. I've actually had it, my children would get a rash if they didn't have a bath every day in the summer because it's very, very hot there and they sweat. So there, a child would be allowed to have a bath on Yom Tov with hot water because, as we said, we passed in Mishama Mesila, we had Machlokas. That Mishama say you're only allowed to cook for drinking purposes. Mesila say you're allowed to cook also for washing purposes because they say anything which is Oich Nefesh. So if your child would get a rash, then you would be allowed to. But for an adult to have a full bath, this is awesome. But to wash limb by limb, now we're discussing a different thing. Where if you have a 3-day Yom Tov there, and you want to have a shower in England, Simchas Torah sometimes can be 3 days, right? You come back from dancing Simchas Torah, and you're feeling very, very sweaty. So are you allowed to have a shower? So this is the discussion over here. We're discussing first Shabbos. So it's fourth line. Shabbos Chamin shuch mumer Shabbos. The mocha roichet ben yodav raglo, panav yodav raglo, but loy kol gufa, not his whole body. Tuvda to rab. Amar loch rab loy kol gufa vas achas eleva eva. You can't do your whole body only bit by bit. Fading more of a panav yodav raglo katani, which is mashma only your face, your hands, and that's it. And smoke and panav yodav raglo. It means like your face, just like your face, your hands, you do limb by limb. This also you're only allowed to do it limb by limb. Tosha Balei two lichois bechamin shuchmev Shabbos panav yodav raglo. And says no, chinamik and panav yodav raglo. The Mizrav says you're not allowed to do your whole body unless you do it limb by limb. And the Gemara answers it means like panav yodav raglo, which means that you do piece by piece. Tanya kavosei to Shmuel chamin shuchmev Shabbos the mocha rich ben panav yodav raglo avaloi kol gufoi eva ben zechmim chamin shuchmev b'Yom Tov kavachima things which were heated up on Yom Tov. So according to this, you're allowed to wash just your face, your hands, and your feet. We pass like Shmuel in this case. And since you pass just like Shmuel, on Shabbos morning, if you've got the old-fashioned boiler, and the boiler is off, so you've got lots of hot water in your tank, you can wash your hands and your face. But you cannot wash your whole body. Again, you have to have a boiler which is off, because if it's on, only be on Yom Tov, because nowadays, what happens is, on Shabbos would also be asa, because as you take out the hot water, fresh cold water goes into the tank, and that itself would be a form of rishon. On Yom Tov, this would be mutter. For example, if you have the old boiler, you can actually wash with hot water this Yom Tov. It says the Gemara, Rabbi Masni ala Hoshemaitz dvar b'hay lishna. Chamin shuchum be'erev Shabbos, which heats up on erev Shabbos. The mocha omar Rav voichet ben kol gufo u'mishai eva echot. You're allowed to leave one limb. That means if you wash your entire body except for one limb, it's okay. Eisei Korani to Yufta, and to Yufta we don't pass like Rav. And we don't. Omar Rav Yosef Rabbi Rabbi mi kovet kishmaitzet Rav. Did Rabbi do like Rav? Omar Rav Yadano. I don't know. How can you say that maybe Rabbi did like Rav? The Gemara just said that Rav was shlogged up. That means Rav was. What we said is not true. So the Gemara says, maybe he never knew the kasha. If he never heard that Rav was wrong. Bade of it. Of course, Rav did like Rav. If he heard there was a kash on Rav, why would he do like Rav? And if he never heard there was a kash on Rav, he definitely did like Rav. Why? Everything Rav of it Rav, he did like Rav. Three things he did like Shmuel. Does anybody remember the three things that Rabbi used to do like Shmuel? We had it actually once before. It was says, you can change tzitzis from one clothes to another. You can light one Hanukkah candle from another. You're allowed to pull a table on Shabbos. So God says, we don't know what they did, like the kulas of So the Gemara carries on. The Gemara keeps going back and forth regarding a bath. When we get to the end of this, we'll try and summarize. Where you blocked up the hole. And as I once mentioned before, in those days, we talk about putting a plug, is that the water shouldn't escape. In those days, you put a plug in the pipe so the water shouldn't come in. So let's say you blocked off, you filled up your big bath of hot water, and you blocked off the pipes and no more water should come in. The Moitze Shabbos Miyad, you're allowed to wash immediately because you never heated it up on Shabbos. You're allowed to go in and sweat. In those days, going to the bathhouse, one of the things that people used to go in was in order to sweat. But and you can rinse off the base in the outer room, but not in the bathhouse itself. The what happened was that they had wooden boards on the hot area, so that way there was no chashash that it got heated up from the heat of the bathhouse, because there was like a mechitza of wooden boards. You're always allowed to do it, because if you go into the outer room, it's permitted. All of this we will see is all gzeros da'abonon, and therefore it depends whether people can mix it up with a proper bath. When people who did that was increased, they forbade it. They forbade even sweating. You're not even allowed to go to a bathhouse to sweat. And these big bathhouses of the cities, you're allowed to walk around them. These very big bathhouses were not so hot. Since they were not so hot, people were not 100% sure you were going in to sweat. Therefore, we'll see, therefore it is mutter. More says, my over Avera. In the beginning, people would have a bath on Shabbos with hot water, which was heated up on Friday. Because Minat Torah, there's absolutely nothing wrong. What's wrong with having a bath on Shabbos? Nothing wrong, as long as you don't heat up the food on Shabbos, and you don't heat up the water on Shabbos. What's wrong with having a bath on Friday, Shabbos? But what happened was, the bath attendants would start heating hot water on Shabbos to satisfy the customers. But they would say, what happened was, Minat Torah, there's no reason not to have a bath on Shabbos. But people would come, loads of people would come to have a bath on Shabbos. And the bathhouse attendants would want to satisfy the customers. So they would cook hot water on Shabbos in order that there should be hot water, plenty of hot water for the baths. So also, so they forbade all hot baths, but allowed people to come in to sweat. People would still go for a bath, but when they would say, we're just coming in to sweat. So also when it says Zeo, they forbade also sweating, because people would go into the bathhouse to sweat, to bath themselves, bathe themselves if you're in London. And then what would happen is, people would become more and more busy with it, and they would say they're just sweating. They permitted Chamei Tiberia because that is not Tilda de Ish. But they would wash themselves with things from a fire. Also, then Chamei Tiberia in the permitted cold. You're allowed to have a cold shower on Shabbos. I remember that when I was in Be'er Yaakov, it's boiling hot. Be'er Yaakov is on the hot, it's very hot part of the country. I used to keep 2 days because I was a bocher. Most of the Israelis, there was only about 5-10 people kept 2 days. The rest kept 1 day. And in that so Shavuos time, it would be boiling hot. So what I used to do is, Rosh Hashiva gave a heter that you're allowed to have a cold shower. Now the Meister is before Shekemor over here. The Gemara says, you're allowed to have a cold shower. State before you're allowed to have a cold shower on Shabbos. You're not allowed to use 1 drop of hot water, just 100% cold water. If you get very hot, let's say in England, it would ever happen that in the middle of the summer, you've got these long Shabbos, it gets boiling hot, you're allowed to have a cold shower. The Mishnah Meister says that the minhag is, we do not even have a cold shower. There are a variety of reasons for this minhag. We're scared that you might come to squeeze your hair and other reasons. But b'mokim chayli, it is mutter. The one way you can get away with it is if you take one part of your body which you don't rinse with a cold shower, then it's the minhag is not. Then it's okay because then you're not doing your entire body. Okay.
Well, why like a mikveh is allowed to be open on Shabbos? People go to mikveh.
That's a very big shayla, especially because it's hot. It's one of the very big shaylas. What is the heter of mikvahs? There are different reasons given in the poskim. It's when he's done before Shabbos, and it's a tzorich mitzvah. It's like a chaylis, therefore it's a big need, etc. It's like okay. There are those who are makpid not to go to hot mikvah on Shabbos. I have to tell you, if you look in the poskei halacha, generally it's all forbidden. They would say to you, if you look in Mishnah Berurah, if you look in the Shach and the Taz regarding if a woman needs to go to mikvah on Shabbos, all of them say hot is no good. But the Hasidim, because they're makpid, always go to mikveh even on Shabbos, so therefore slowly they become more kuladik about it. But it depends who you ask, how common it is. They allow them chamei teveria. You're not allowed to go to a sweat house. You're not allowed to go to a sauna on Shabbos. Somebody who's over this surely you're allowed to call him somebody who's over averos. Command. How do we see that? So if you remember, the Brisa before said, when the people who do averos increased. Now, what were these people doing, having baths on Shabbos from hot water that was heated before Shabbos, which when Torah is fine. So Afa became the Brisa calls them over averos. Says well, top of my memory place, like this Tana that called them over averos. So what material shall kvochim of the cities metaben and nechoishes. Moreover, dafke kvochim of the cities out the kvochim of the villages loy. My time given the zutrin, since they're very small, nofish avlayu, they get very hot. Since they get very hot, so therefore it's muchach that you're doing it for sweat, and therefore it's no good. Tonu abonon mischamim adam kedeged medur. A person is allowed to heat himself up by a bath opposite a fire. V'yotzim mishtatef b'tzonin, and afterwards go and rinse himself off in cold water. You can't have a cold shower and then go and stand next to a fire. Why? Because you'll heat up the water. If you go for a very cold shower and then you stand next to a fire, the water on you will become a vushel. So you're not allowed to do that. You're allowed to heat up like a towel. Let's look at it. If you look at Rashi, aluntis is the first of the narrow lines. Tiyula, which is a towel, which is a very similar word. You can put it on your stomach b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to put a kettle on your stomach, because if you put a kettle on your stomach on Shabbos, the kettle might spill, and you'll come to cook on Shabbos. You'll come to wash yourself on Shabbos, which is awesome. But it's dangerous, because sometimes it's be very hot, and you pour it over yourself, and it is dangerous. Maybe
that's for normal weekdays.
What?
That would be for a weekday as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what it says. Even on weekdays also, because it might be dangerous. Very good. You're allowed to take a jug of water, put it next to the fire. Not that it should get warm, that it should be cold. Even a jug of oil, we'll explain why oil is doing a chiddush. In order that it should get warm. You can put your hands with warm with oil, put it next to the fire, and then afterwards rub it onto your little child. So the more explains now. What's the din according to the Tanakh Kama regarding oil? Rabbi Rabbi Yosef Zami Chavai Le'eteo. Nachma Yitzchak Omar Le'isur. Rabbi Rabbi Yosef Zami Chavai Le'eteo. Shem Nachbi Sheyatz Ledis Boi Muta. Why? Because Savat Hanekam Hashem Emo Mishum Bishul. There's no din bishul. Why? Because it doesn't get improved by cooking. Water, hot water, is nicer than cold water. The oil, when it's cooked, does not improve. So there's no din bishul. But warming it up is not bishul, and therefore it's okay. That is also. And therefore Shimon Gamliel says you're not allowed to put a jug next to the fire, only your hands, but not a jug. Because with your hands it's derech shinui, and that's why it's okay. So even if you're not going to heat it up, it's also why? Because just warming it up a little bit, that improves it so much that it is proper bishul. He's coming to be meikul and saying that oil you're allowed to. If that's the case, allows you. So you've got here 3 questions you need to consider. One is, by water, everybody seems to say that it's forbidden because water, cooking it improves it, and therefore putting water next to it is asa. But as if you're not going to heat it, you're just going to take away the chill, that's okay. Oil is a machlokas. One machlokas is, does oil improve by cooking? So therefore, is there bichlal issa bishul in oil? Second of all, when there is issa bishul, is it only if you heat it up properly, or even if you just warm it up a bit? And third of all, if you put it on your hands, which is derech shindu, and you put your hand next to the fire, so according to Shimon Gamliel, that's okay because you're not doing it the normal way of cooking, so therefore it's permitted. And that's how we pass. And if it's good, Yad Seledis Boy is also in Yad Seledis Boy Mutter. If the stomach of a baby would get burnt, a baby's skin is very, very delicate. So therefore it gets burnt much easier than an adult. And therefore it is forbidden. In fact, it's got an interesting tshuva where he says that in the olden days, hot water was not abundantly used to as cold water. And women nowadays, when they do a lot of washing up, they get very, very, very used to hot water. So even though Yad Seledispo is something which the hand moves away, but by women nowadays, since they got so used to hot water, they do not take the hand away from hot water as quickly as they used to in the olden days. So even when they don't take the hand away, it's still considered Yad Seledispo. It's this interesting. Once tried this, my wife, you try it. What temperature do you find uncomfortable? Not to be chauvinistic, but women do more washing up than men. And therefore what happens is, my wife actually finds a hotter water more comfortable than I do, because she's more used to it. What I would consider too hot, she would consider, that means I would not want my hand to be in such a thing, I would take my hand away, she would find comfortable. You see the idea that we've got people who wash up a very lot with hot water are used to it. It doesn't necessarily be somebody who washes up, somebody who deals with hot water all the time. Has to be careful that what he doesn't feel at that Seledispo can still be at Seledispo. It says the Gemara. I came into the bathhouse after Rebbe. I wanted to put a jug of oil into the bath in order that he should warm it up, in order that I should then be able to massage him with this warm oil. You have to put it into a keli sheni because in the keli rishon the oil will cook. There's issa of cooking oil. The keli sheni doesn't cook. Because he wasn't trying to heat it, cook it properly. He was just trying to put the bottle of oil in hot water. And after became, he held it was awesome. How could he tell him in halacha, don't put the oil into the bath, but rather put it into a keli sheni? He's passing an halacha, and he's sitting undressed in the bath. How can you pass an halacha in the bathhouse? Maybe he spoke to him not in Lashon HaKodesh, but in a foreign language. Things which is not Kedivei Kedosha, you're allowed to say it even in Lashon HaKodesh. It doesn't make a difference which language you use. It makes a difference what you're speaking about. If you speak about nonsense and you say it in Lashon HaKodesh, then it's nonsense. And if you're speaking about Divrei Kedusha, then even if you're speaking about it with Divrei Chol, then it's also. So how could you pass into in the bathhouse? It is also. And it says more afushim isur shani. Taking away from an issa is permitted. That means even in the bathhouse, one's allowed to say aloha to stop a person from doing an issa. He wanted to rinse the floor, to do like a kind of sponge as a covered for a meal. You're not allowed to rinse the floor. To soak the floor. Even in a bathhouse, one is allowed to say an aloha not to be purged from issa. And this is a very, very important aloha derech agav. You're not allowed to do mopping on Shabbos at all. Not on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to mop the floor. There are some people, unfortunately, are not aware of that. But you should be aware you're not allowed to mop the floor on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Because it's something quite hard. For example, after Seder night, people spill the grape juice and wine, or whatever place, you're still not allowed to mop the floor. There's various, if a small stain is a way to wipe it out, you're allowed to wipe it up with a tissue. But to mop is forbidden, and he said that to him even in the bathhouse.
Even though nowadays the floors aren't made of earth, and I mean,
yes,
obviously not. It's the same applies.
Yes, I should have put that. Even very good time, yes. Even our floors are not made out of sand, yes. The Rebbe was after the Gzer. Rebbe was obviously heating himself up because he was having a bath. Now, he wouldn't be allowed to have a bath in the normal hot water. So when he said to him, put the oil which you wanted to massage him, put it in the Keli Sheni, he must have been talking about the Chamet Tver. In African, he said to him, put it in the Keli Sheni v'tei. Eini v'omar chisa v'ashim Chamet Tver b'Shabbos Potter. Is Potter. My Chana, the common Makas Mardos is forbidden with Rabbanon. That means, what kind of bath was he having? He couldn't be having a bath from hot water from a fire, because that's awesome. He must be having Chamet Tver. And after he said to him, don't put the oil inside the bath. Why? Because it's cooking. It's a raya that it is awesome. But it's only awesome with Rabbanon. The shot ba'ambati. That he swam in the bath. But I don't know when he was swimming about in the bath on Shabbos, did he lift his feet off the floor or not? He says, well, of course he didn't lift his feet off the floor. Even if you've got a bath or pool in your back garden, you're not allowed to swim. The Kasha says more, top of Memala from Aleph, or the less legedude or the is legedude. If it's got a bank, if it's got a rail, what's a good word for it in English? When you go around the swimming pool, what do you have at the side of the swimming pool? I've been swimming many years. Embankment. Okay, embankment. When it's got embankment, it is mutter. When it's got no embankment, then it is osa. The reason is, the Chazal made the Issa D'Rabbanan to go for a swim in a river, because you might break off a branch in order to float. So if it's got an embankment, it doesn't look like a river. Rivers don't have these rails around. They don't have an embankment. But if it does have an embankment, it doesn't look like a river, and therefore it's okay. I won't mind getting to the Mishnah on Memala from Dalef, because that way we should not be so far behind, and it's easy to get more. He put his hands in front of his bris milah when he went for a swim, when he went to wash. Nothing to do with Shabbos now. As tznius. That means he covered himself up by his front. In Noga, I don't know if he actually touched his bris milah or not. If a person touches and urinates, because it causes kishui, and the person will make lashes. In times of fear, we're not chishush of taiva. If an army comes into a city, in time of peace, then chaviyos pesuchois, open bowels are surois, tumos mutois, but closed bowels are mutter. Because we're not chishush that they did yain nesech, b'shas melchoma ilu velu mutois. In time of battle, they don't have time to start doing Yain Nesach. So therefore, over here, we're saying the same thing. That over here, we're saying that since it was a time of fear, we're not choishes. The Gemara says the fish ain't penal nasach. They've got no time to do nisach yain nesach. I'm giving the beisim nasach. I'm not giving the boys. Leosi levuwe won't come to mahar. Wait, what might be susa? What fear is that? What says bisusa the now? There's the fear of the river. So he was allowed to cover himself and perhaps even touch himself, because when he was going for a swim to wash himself, he's not going to be thinking about taiva because he's scared of being swept away by the river. When the person hides the bris milah, what he's showing is a bit of embarrassment that he's had the bris milah, and the person should be proud that he's had bris milah. So why? So it's a zone. When you go down to the river where nobody's watching you, because if you think about it, the people are on the bank of the river and you're walking into the river, then you shouldn't cover. You should be proud that you're not hiding it. When you're coming out of the river and everybody's watching you coming out, then you should cover yourself up. You would bend when you would go in and out in order to hide it. Zokif, he would stand tall to show everybody. When they would go down, Zokfi, they would stand straight, everybody should see. Kikosonki, when they would come out, Shochi, they would bend over not to show. So that means that there's a double-edged point over here. On one hand, you don't want to hide the fact that the person had bismillah, the person should be proud of it. On the other hand, a person should not, doesn't want, there's an Indian of tznius. So it depends on the situation whether a person should hide it or reveal it. The boiler mesa cloud, the soul, was always to avoid Rabbi Yehuda. We've had this before because he wants to go to Eretz Sol. Rabbi Yehuda held you're not allowed to go to Eretz Sol. You have to stay in Bava. I'll go and hear from him something, and then I'll go to Eretz Sol. It's interesting because a few times we have such a one. Every time he heard from him something else. So there must have been a few different halachas he heard from him. He was sitting in the bathhouse. Can you imagine such a thing? He went to visit his Rebbe in the bathhouse. He was saying to Shami, bring me soap and bring me a comb. Open your mouth and blow out hot air. And drink the water of the bathhouse. Omar said, "Il mole bossi elu lishma adamazad." I not come just to hear this. That would be enough. Wow. Bring soap, bring a comb. That he spoke to them in Lashon HaKodesh. Nessa is a word in Lashon HaKodesh, which is one of the Samonim. And he spoke in Lashon HaKodesh because you're allowed to say divrei choil in Lashon HaKodesh. Open your mouth and blow out hot air. Nami kedeshmon. The hot air blows out hot air. Meaning like this, that when a person breathes in the hot air of the bath, at the same time the hot air of the sweat comes out. And in those days, I don't know if nowadays also, they believe that the more sweat you get rid of, the healthier you are. So if you go to a bathhouse, if you blow out air and in more air comes in, so you're getting hot air from the bathhouse, and you're exuding the hot air of your sweat, so that's all healthy. But drinking the water of the bathhouse, what advantage is there in drinking the water of the bath? The Tanya was a brisa. A person eats and doesn't drink, can cause danger because you have to drink whenever you eat. A person eats without drinking can cause stomach aches. A person who eats but doesn't walk 4 hours after that, so he eats in bed, let's say, and goes straight to sleep. This food goes moldy and it doesn't digest. He'll have bad breath. And this somebody needs to go to the bathroom and he eats when he needs to go to the bathroom. It's like somebody trying to light a fire on old ashes from a previous fire, which makes it very, very difficult. Rather, first you clear out the old burnt out ashes, and then you build a new fire. So too, when you eat a meal, you should first clear out the old meal before you eat the new meal. And that causes, zuamo is not moldiness, it is disgust, or a better word for it. Zuamod, when a person is
Perspirational odor.
Perspirational odor. Okay. Bad odor. Perspirational odor. Shkech. If you wash yourself with hot water, you don't drink hot water. It's like an oven which you heat it on the outside, not on the inside. So whenever you have a bath, you should always make sure to drink from the hot water of the bath, because otherwise you're only warming yourself up on the outside, not on the inside. I actually read some about Sadik that whenever you used to have a bath, you always used to have a hot tea afterwards, because of this reason, that you should be heated on the outside, on the inside. But other than that, I've never seen anybody drinking, I don't know, drinking actually from the hot water of the bath. The Gemara here says it's a very good thing to do. My little babies perhaps do that, but I don't know about other true people. You get hot with hot water, but you don't rinse off in cold water. It's like iron. You put in hot water, where you don't put in cold water. If you want to make something very hot, strong, you put in hot water, then straight away in cold water. If you wash, but you don't afterwards anoint yourself, it's water on top of the bowl, which doesn't seep in. Whenever you have a bath, you should also afterwards soak yourself with oil and massage yourself up with oil. And and these are all health habits. So that was, wait a second, let's think. Today's daf was Lamed Tes. Tomorrow's daf is Mem. Thursday's daf is Mem Aleph. So on Friday, Mr. Hashem at 12:15, we'll be starting from this Mishnah. And the next Amud is very, very short, but we are, by the time we get to Friday, we'll be half a daf behind. That's too bad. And then Shabbos again, no daf, and we'll be a little bit behind. That's part of the Yom Tov, part of the situation. I'll just say a very little tiny word from Shebina Rav. Shebina Rav said like this: Atzabeim kesav ezor ma'asidei adam. The simple translation is Atzabeim the avodah zor, which causes them sadness, because at the end of the day they don't do anything for them, is made out of gold and silver, made by human beings. He translates like this: Atzabeim is the depression. Atzabeim because the word atzvus, the depression. Why do people get depressed? It's because kesav ezor ma'asidei adam. They think that the way to get gold and silver is dependent on how well a person works. But if they would know that kesav ezor is not ma'asidei adam, it's nothing to do with how well a person works, but it's to do with the fact of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's decision. Therefore, that is, he would not be depressed. I heard added to my father added to this like this: that the pasuk says, "Smach zvulun b'tzeisecho," that zvulun is happy when he goes out to work. Most people do not be happy when they go out to work. They're only happy when they come home and earn their wage. Why would the person be happy to go out to work? The answer is because it's the opposite of this. Because a person's depressed if he thinks it's all up to his hands. If a person knows it's all in the hands of Hashem, and the reason he goes to work is because this is what Hashem told him to do. And the second he goes to work, he knows already that whatever happens, he'll be successful because he's doing what Hashem told him to do. It's a very important message. The Ikar of Pesach is to be a memory of Emunah, that a person's success in life has nothing to do with what his hands, but only to do with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides. And that's the best medicine for any kind of stress, depression, all the words. It's nice, better. Atzabem kesav ezor ma'asidei adam, because they think it's the hands. Should be zecher to have a shvi, a Yom Tov of a munah, a Yom Tov of geula. And I don't know how many of you are knowing to have Sudosish from Mashiach, the last meal on Yom Tov. You're knowing to have it.
Yeah,
I never used to have. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's a nice minhag. It's a very nice minhag, especially that you're locked up. What?
What
Usually
is
we
it?
do it in the shul, but now it's harder. I'll have to do it at home. And
Yeah, what you do is, it's after, on the last day of Pesach in the afternoon, in Yom Tov, there's no din shalosh shudas. The Baal Shem Tov was the one who set this up, by the way. He held very, very strongly of this, that you have a meal, and you sing most of the songs from the Seder night, and you talk about Mashiach coming, because this is the time when Mashiach will be. I saw down the Levush, that the reason the Haftarah on Shabbos was that the Tchias HaMesim of Yecheskel is because Pesach is a time of Sugal for Tchias HaMesim. And just like it says, that's why it's Man Chevusenu, because when the person is buried, he's locked up in the grave. He doesn't come out. People stay in the graves, no one come out. But it's Man Chevusenu, that Pesach is a time of freedom that will come out of our graves. And that's why we learn about Yecheskel's Yeshua. It's very nice to get a chizuk about Hashem, to have tremendous nissim that used to happen for those who are makbid to talk about the Munah Mashiach at the last meal of Yom Tov. Should be zeichetaka to be asko tzedek me'ov yamin yamin. I get a lot of chizuk to see everybody keep going. I know it's very, very hard. The whole situation is very hard. It's not the same to have it on Zoom and disturbances. And it's quite a lot of different, I have been going a bit faster. And we've had many days up and down. It's not been so easy. So you have to say to yourself, now it might not be perfect. You're doing your best to keep going. But the main thing is that afterwards, when everything goes back to normal, then it at least will be, on track. And everybody should have a very, very good Yom Tov. Any ha'oras?
Just a question while we're talking about heating water.
Yes.
I have a system where it comes on a time switch. I have a cylinder in the loft. Every day it heats up water.
Yes.
Now, is it a problem if that comes on sometime during Shabbos, so that Motzi Shabbos I can have a shower?
Well, it's automatic.
I set it a time. So I set it, let's say, every day at 4 o'clock. It comes on for an hour, and it heats up the whole tank.
No, I can't. Why should be any issue? It's no different from your heating going on Shabbos, your lights going on Shabbos. You mean you want to have a shower immediately after Shabbos? There's no problem. There's no problem having it.
Are you
Did
allowed
anybody
to
ever say to you there's a problem about it? No. Why should there be a problem?
No, I just wondered, because I used to sometimes change it from winter to summer to come on later so that it didn't come on Shabbos, but I guess it shouldn't be a problem.
If you set it before Shabbos, you don't set it, whatever you do before Shabbos, it goes on automatically. You can't do it on Shabbos. On Shabbos, you can't have a bath. But after Shabbos, you can have as many baths as you want. No problem.
What about second day Yom Tov, Rabbi Yehuda? Are you allowed to ask somebody to put water on for you, shvus to shvus, like let's say you have a clean in the house at normal times?
Right.
Even
Which boiler are you talking about? Combi boiler or no?
Yeah, it can be, but second day asking a goy.
What?
So it's shvus to shvus, second day Yom Tov.
The goy themselves is washing up. They can turn on the hot water for their own washing up.
No, for you to wash your kids or to wash yourselves.
To wash yourself would be awesome. To wash yourself would definitely be awesome. You cannot ask a goy to turn on hot water for you. So how would you do it anyway? Because they would turn on the hot water. What, you would put your hands underneath? That would be awesome.
No, they put the bath
water. If they turn it on to wash it up, then you can turn on at the same time, maybe.
No, you can't. Not if you got a combi boiler. No, because every tap that you put on makes the fire get bigger.
Even if you're asking a goy, it's not like...
No, for the goy to wash up themselves, that would be fine. The goy to put on a bath for you would be awesome, second day on, definitely. For a baby, that would be a big shaila. It would depend if the baby needs it. If the baby would need it, that would be a different story. Then you'd have to ask a rov. You must remember, a combi boiler, when you turn it on, you're actually doing it as a deraisis. It's not a shvus to shvus. The goy turning on the hot water is a shvus.
Yeah, and the second day is darabonon, no?
Right, okay. But
isn't that
as far as I remember, by the second day Yom Tov, we're not calling it a shvus to shvus because Chazal were extra machmir about it. I'd have to check it up. And by the way, somebody asked about a frying pan in the sun. I looked it up. That is awesome. You're not allowed to fry an egg in a frying pan in the sun. And I made this. What? We're going to a frying pan off the fire, so it'll be awesome. You won't be able to. Even on a rooftop, we actually pass that it is awesome. That means if you've got a very hot roof, it would still be awesome. The only way it would be mutter is if you do it directly in the sun. That's actually you hold it in the sun and get it to be cooked in the sun. It's not very practical. I'm just saying in case somebody wanted to know the halacha. You're not allowed to fry the thing. Any other shailas? This whole water business is...
It's actually a system you were talking about before where you have a boiler, not a combi.
Yeah.
The problem of having a shower on Shabbos is turning hot water on is that it brings water in.
Yeah.
There is actually a system on such a boiler. There is plumbers who will actually set you a Shabbos thing where you can stop incoming water replenishing once you've used it.
So then you'd be allowed to wash your hands, your face, your feet. You would not be allowed to wash your whole body because you'd only be allowed to wash part of your body. If you've got that system that no new hot water comes in, you'd be allowed to wash parts of your body. And then on Yom Tov, you'd be able to learn to much easier. It would be like a nice thing to do. But that's it.
What do you mean? On Yom Tov, there's no problem anyway.
What?
On Yom Tov, it doesn't help for Yom Tov. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, on Yom Tov, I tell you what the problem is. That on Yom Tov, if you if you want to wash your whole body, it would be a problem because what happens is we hold that an adult is not allowed to wash his whole body with hot water, which was heated up on Yom Tov. So for a baby, it would be okay, but to have a hot bath on Yom Tov is also even with this system. Unless you
What
wash
do you mean? You're
hot.
talking about Eva Ve'eva? You're talking about Eva Ve'eva, or if you do everything?
I do everything.
I've heard people that have had, like this Pesach, people had showers on Yom Tov.
Why?
I think they have boilers that are already preheated.
Right. So if you do Eva and they don't do the whole body, then it's okay. Yeah, Eva. I tell you, it depends. If a person needs it as a chili, as I said, if you have 3 days, if you're very sweaty, or if a person needs it, some people get a rash. They get not well if they don't have a shower. So then it's mutter. I remember I used to have this in Be'ak, I used to have this cold, but 100% cold water shower. It would be boiling hot. You don't have it so much in England. In England, it's not such a difficulty, but I don't know. So it depends. Children can be a difficulty, or different people that have sensitive skin, it can be a difficulty. Very good. They should have a very, very good Yom Tov Hatzlacha with everything.
Good Yom
How are
Tov.
you, Charlie? You look a bit pale. You okay?
Baruch Hashem, trying my best. One of my kids has got temperature, so I'm quarantining, but hopefully I'm okay with dinner.
Right. Very good. Okay, Hatzlacha. Shall you have a source table? So you should be well. Okay.
Yom Tov Shkar.
Good Yom Tov.